Talk to us about your boot camp experience.
My boot camp was pretty uneventful, but I tell you, I did all the exercises that I was told to do and more. Many of the fellows would go into Macon on the weekends and things of this nature, and that was not my forte. I would usually do my exercises throughout that whole weekend. And in fact I even accepted KP duty for some of the people that wanted to go, and it was their turn. I went to Macon, I think, just twice. And the thing that amazed me about that was that if you had a black that was coming toward you on the sidewalk, they would immediately walk across the street. They would not come in contact with you. And that was very, very amazing to me.
How so? Why was that different than what you've experienced?
Well, up north, we had, the Devans had a black caretaker. And lots of times he'd have dinner with us. So we were associated with blacks. I mean, we had no problem with blacks. But down there, they still had segregation. Which is amazing.
Had you handled firearms before you came to boot camp?
.22 rifle. Not even a shotgun.
Was that for what purposes? Why'd you have that prior to boot camp?
I tried to shoot rabbits, but I wasn't very good at it.
Different type of meal for the family, huh? But
Yeah.
Never successful, huh?
So boot camp was uneventful for you.
Very uneventful.
Did you say you participated in the Battle of the Bulge?
I did participate in the Battle of the Bulge, but it was taking ground back that the Germans had essentially captured, trying to get to our gasoline supply. But I'll tell you one thing. If the Bulge wasn't there would never have been an East Germany.
How so? What do you mean by that?
Because Patton was going to go to Berlin. And the Bulge really, the fierceness of the fights there were horrible. And it took a long time to essentially get the Germans moved out of that area. So, once you got into central Germany, I mean, you were freewheeling. And he was scheduled, he wanted to go there so bad.
You describe your time at the Bulge as if you dug one foxhole and that's where you stayed your entire time? You didn't move around, advance?
No, we went across the Saar River several times. And we went, of course, the Rhine was the next big river. We went across there. This was pontoon bridges, too. But we didn't do... See, I didn't do much walking because I was in an 81 millimeter outfit, which had a Jeep and a trailer that housed all of our equipment. So walking was not... Oh, I did some walking, but not a heck of a lot.
Describe your personal gear what you carried, what you had access to, clothing, what all you carried with you.
Well, I tell you, it was cold whenever I went there. So I had 2 pair of pants, khaki pants that I put on. And those were not replaced for 5 weeks.
So you had pants, one shirt, one pair of underwear.
But you didn't take them off.
Right.
Never took them off.
You had a carbine. Did you have a 45?
Nope.
Had a helmet for your head.
Yep.
Any other gear that you had to lug around that was your responsibility?
No, occasionally we have to carry the ammo, but for the mortar.
Describe this 300 radio.
Well, I didn't know what the internal workings of it were. It was a radio voice communication between the mortar emplacement and the front line. The individual that actually used the 300 radio, other than one of our people that I carried on alternate days actually, he would essentially dictate the reduce the range or increase the range or something like that. So I had nothing to do with the radio itself, other than carry it. And it was a hefty piece of equipment, probably weighed about 40 pounds.
How big? Was it like a big box or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of like a backpack type of?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that transmitted through like a radio wave through the air.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Describe how you met your wife. Tell us about that.
Well, I had gone, I was invited to another wedding of a friend, and I had gone to the wedding, and I think they had it all set up that I should meet this gal. And I did meet her, and
What was her name?
Irene Bernice Podlasek. Yeah.
Would you call that love at first sight?
I can't attribute anything other than that.
So what was your approach to her? How did you actually meet at the wedding?
Well, we didn't know exactly where we were going to be billeting. It was in the house where the other bride was, and I was told to go upstairs. And as I was going upstairs, she was coming downstairs and bumped into me. But I don't think that we knew either one of us was going to be meeting and essentially falling in love the way we did.
So what about that first glance, though, bumping into her? Was it just a bump and you didn't know, or?
No.
Or did you say anything at that point?
Nope.
No?
Well, I'm probably excuse me or pardon me or something. But then when we finally met, we had gone out in the car and we talked a good bit. In fact, we missed the wedding cake cutting.
How does that happen? So you met her and then you just asked her to go out to the car and talk?
I don't know how that happened, but that's where we were. When we, yeah.
A smooth talker, Dad.
And you met only 6 more times before you were married.
7.
Which one of those events did you decide to ask her to marry you?
Oh, it was early, because I had met her in May of 48. And we were engaged in September of that year.
And did you, I mean, it was a long distance because you were in Baltimore, she was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So, I guess you went up to Pittsburgh? Did she come down to Baltimore? When did you propose
Both,
to her?
but
Yeah.
no, it was early. Of course, it had to be in September is when we got engaged.
Yeah, actually, what I meant to ask was, did you go to Pittsburgh to engage? Did she come down? When?
No, I went up.
Okay, yeah.
Did you go ask her father's permission first?
I had to ask her mother because her father was dead.
Okay.
Yeah. So how was that reaction?
Well, her mother was concerned that there's so many people that were abandoning their spouses and things of this nature, and she was concerned that I would be good to her. And I guess as it turned out, I guess we were good for each other.
Yeah.
How many years together before she passed away?
About 63 and a half years.
I think it worked out pretty good, sir.
Yeah.
How many children do you have?
4. 11 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, and another couple of weeks I'll probably have another great-grandchild.
Tell us about your children. Who was born when?
Well, my wife had an unusual pregnancy. She had a tubular pregnancy, which had to be aborted. That happened in 51, I think. And then came Kathy, and they were about two years apart. Kathy and Debbie and Suzanne, and then Tony is the last one. But we were planning to have 6. She did have two miscarriages too. So.
You were planning for 6?
I wasn't going to match my mother and father. They had 9.
And that was Mom's wishes too? I mean, I know she was basically the only child, but you came from a big family, so.
Yeah. Well, she was not the only child. She had
No, that's right.
Bob,
That's
yeah,
right. Yeah,
brother.
Yeah.
But, well, she was getting up into the age where, she was no longer childbearing, so. Show him the picture.
Which one?
That one in there. In the bedroom.
Let's take a little break.
Okay.
And, okay, let's talk about that picture.
Yeah. So.
Well, that picture was taken on June 18th, 1949.
And were you married? Where were you married?
At a church in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. St. Nicholas Church, the oldest Croatian Catholic church in the United States.
Wow. So tell me, I know you talked a little about this before, but tell me about the courtship of you and Mom. So I know that you met at a relative's wedding up in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, and we don't know, but we think it was maybe arranged
Yeah,
for you guys to meet.
it was arranged.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Obviously worked out pretty well,
yeah.
and so you met her there. You had a great talk with her, and at the end of the night, what happened? What'd you do? What'd you say? Or did you leave at that point? Were you in town for a couple more days? Or?
No, we left. We left for home in Elk Ridge. Yeah.
Who else was with you from your family? Was it just you, or?
No, there were some women that drove up with me from Baltimore. I don't even know their names.
Yeah, but obviously they knew who was in the wedding, and they were invited.
Oh
to
yeah,
it,
yeah.
So get back to the evening. So you talked to Mom, you hit it off for a while, and it's the evening. You're ready to part. What would you say to each other at that point?
I don't have the vaguest idea.
Well, you must have gotten her number or address or something to communicate with her, right?
No, I had I had an address. In fact, is that after that I wrote her a letter every day with a dime in it. So
Every day?
every day.
Wow.
Well, the postage was only 3 cents.
Did she write you back?
Yeah, but not as frequently.
It's plain hard to get, I guess, at that point. Just joking. Just joking. Yeah. Yeah. So wow. So you put a dime in every day. Did she save all that money?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't a lot of money.
What was the purpose of the dime?
I don't know.
Just maybe a commitment to her that you'd be a good provider.
Well, I don't know whether that ever crossed anybody's mind, even whether it was a good provider or not. I was going to college, so that meant something. And I built a house because we never lived in a house that's been lived in before.
So go back to the timeline. So you met Mom that night at the wedding. You exchanged letters. You saw her about 7 times before you got married. You were engaged to her how many months after you first met her that first night?
Well, I met her in May, and in September we were engaged.
You were engaged, yeah.
That year.
And so talk to me
48.
about the engagement. You knew you were going to do this. You picked out the ring, I guess, ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
You were going up there with the ring to Pittsburgh. You were hoping that Granny would say yes, I would guess. Or did that matter?
Well, your mom was a musician. In fact, she had a band at one time during the war. But she was an accordion player, and she had a lot of boyfriends before she met me, and I didn't find this out until probably a year later, but she told her boyfriends that she's cutting everything off because she's met the man she was going to marry.
And this is, do you think, before you proposed to her?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
Well, she certainly was love struck as well, I guess, that first sight.
oh, I'm sure it was.
So
Yeah.
So let's get back though to the time that you're ready to propose to her. You went and asked her mom, Granny, right? Can you? And she said yes. She gave her your concerns. And then now what? Now you're out with Mom. Where did you go? Where did you take her? What was the surroundings that you asked her to marry her?
I don't remember that.
Was it in her house by chance, or was it away from the house after?
No, I think it was North Park.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
took her out, kind of for a
Yeah.
date, right? And and North Park, was that where like the bands played, or?
Yeah.
So it was kind of in, what?
But there was no bands playing out there at that time. We didn't have that much time with it because she worked. And so,
Do you remember her reaction when you asked her? Did you get down on your knee? Let me ask you that.
of course,
Okay, good. But do you remember her reaction when you were proposing, or is it just
no,
so?
I think she expected it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess she was happy though. Yeah, I hope so.
63 and a half years.
Yeah, that was kind of a dumb question. Yeah. Oh wow! So you proposed to her. She said yes. You had to part again because you lived in different places,
Yeah.
right? And so now we're 3 months into it. We have another, I guess, 9 months or less to go before your wedding, right? Or 6
Well,
months.
I
6
know
months,
her.
guess, yeah.
Her mother came with her to Baltimore, or to Elk Ridge actually, and met the family there too. But that's what I would do is every time I had a long weekend or something like that, I would go up to Pittsburgh.
But not too many of those, obviously.
Obviously,
There was just a few of the trips up there. 6, 7 trips, right?
yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, she came down, I think, for Easter of the following of the year that we got married. Yeah.
Wow. And then you talked about the house. So that you started before you got married?
Started it when I was engaged.
No, really. So
Yeah.
that's what you. Yeah. And I guess she was fine with moving to the Baltimore area or to Elk Ridge in this case.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, she wanted to get away from Pittsburgh, dirty old Pittsburgh.
True.
And
Steel mills that back then. Yeah.
at that time, it was still dirty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep. And did you have the land picked out, or did you pick it out together? How'd that?
No, I picked out a lot that was. I think I bought that lot for $100. It was a half-acre lot.
And what kind of house did you? Well, I'm going to ask you what kind of house you built, but did she have any say in the type of house? Did you plan that together?
Well, not too much, but it was a small house. It was a Cape Cod. Actually, it had a full basement. It had 2 bedrooms upstairs, pretty small, single bathroom, small kitchen, small dining room, and a small living room. And of course, the upstairs was not finished. I finished that myself later on, as we needed it.
Did you have any part in the construction of it, or did you have a builder?
I had a builder,
Builder, okay.
$9,500.
Yeah, I remember that house as well. Good or bad memory, I'm not quite sure. But I remember you and I being into the living room. We had a rocker chair. I don't know if you remember this rocker chair that we had. And for some reason, I don't know if I wanted to be with you, I wanted to play or something like that, but Mom wanted to be with the rocker, and you trying to comfort me. And we were rocking, and all of a sudden we flipped back.
That I don't remember.
I do. Believe me, I do. As a boy, I remember that. It was pretty traumatic for me, and I never wanted to get in that rocker again.
Yeah, yeah,
But I do remember that being a pretty small house, but a fun house.
Yeah.
It really was a fun house. Yeah.
well, we had a lot of people in that house,
Yeah.
always.
Remember all the Christmas parties all the time in there, all the relatives coming over. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a great house. It really was a fun house to be in. Yeah. So with that, we were in there for, I don't know how many years. How many years were you in that house?
I think about 16.
16, yeah. And then you built another house, right? A new house.
Well, we bought the 13 acres in 62, I think it is, or 63, and built the house in 65, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. And that was in Ilchester, right?
Yep.
And then we stayed there for, I don't know how many years, 70. I was from 60 whatever to 70 something, right? And when you moved
73, I think.
73 when you
yeah.
moved up to New Jersey.
Jersey, yeah.
Yep. And that was another new house. I remember that one.
Yep.
And I don't know when you left New Jersey to come down to here to Georgia. I don't know when that was. Had to have been in the 90s because it was a little bit past when I got married. I don't know if it was 91, 2, 3, something like that, right? Yeah. But you came down here, another new house across the street from here in Cumming, Georgia. And you were there for how long?
16 years.
16 years, and then in this house now for how long's it been?
We moved in 07,
Okay.
2007.
Okay. So good 10, 11 years, 11 years, right? Okay. Yeah.
This is 16, not quite 10 years.
Not quite 10 years. Yeah. My math is off. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I'm trying to think of where to go from here.
Were there any interesting, combat era stories that you had talked about that you'd recorded earlier that you wanted to get?
Yeah, a lot of yeah. So a lot of the things he talked about in the general history, and I didn't know. I know you started to try to go back and ask more specifics about any of the battles, and I'm trying to think if there's anything that you missed that I've heard before. I'm trying to think.
Well, once we got across the Rhine, I mean, things moved very quickly. I mean, we didn't stop.
Was there, and obviously there was a plan to go across a certain path, right? I guess. Was there, or?
I hope there was, because I wasn't part of that.
Right. Yeah.
I was following the leader.
So I guess once you got past, at what point again, and then it started to go faster, or less?
Across the Rhine.
Across the Rhine, yeah. And was there anything in the war that you know of that made that, I guess, easier to traverse that part of the war?
Yeah, the Germans had essentially capitulated, but you still had snipers and things of this nature that were out there. They hadn't gotten the word yet.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it wasn't your job, because you're a mortar, but it wasn't your job necessarily to capture any soldiers or bring them under.
Well, toward the end of the war, we were moving so rapidly that in order to achieve a particular goal, and we wanted to go further into Czechoslovakia, but we did not. We just went basically on the border of Czechoslovakia and Germany. where we met the Russians. And then we had to give up that particular portion of Czechoslovakia anyway. And I had nothing to do with that particularly.
So you were not necessarily in a platoon at that point, or you were when you crossed over?
Oh yeah, I was still with the Yankee
You
Division.
still were with the Yankee, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there was a point where it turned, right? So, you know, the Russians were your friends, and then one day they weren't. What was the event that happened that they, and was there fighting at that point?
No.
No, okay, it was just something flipped and everyone
No,
respected that.
initially it was comrade, and then after that they drew a line in the sand. Basically, we couldn't cross it.
But everybody respected that, no
Yeah.
necessarily gunfire
No,
per se.
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Hold up your uniform a little bit.
Yeah, let me
And then,
straighten it out a little bit. There we go.
so you made staff sergeant.
yep.
That's on your right sleeve. What is the emblem on your right shoulder? That's your left shoulder. Your right shoulder. Is it a DY?
Yeah, you know, it's
I can't see
very
it.
top. You have to pull right on the shoulder, right where your hand is, Dad. Right, yeah, right over there. Nope, bring it back towards you. Right there.
Oh, this thing here?
Mm-hmm.
That's the Yankee Division.
Can you show that to
26,
the camera?
There you go.
26th Infantry Division, the Yankee Division.
Okay. What is the silver on the lapel there?
I don't know.
Well, there's some honesty there.
Semper Paratus.
And then is a rifle badge on your
Probably. Yeah.
And what does that mean?
what does that stand for?
Sharpshooter.
Sharpshooter. Very good. And there are 3 stripes on your left sleeve down low.
I should know what those were, but I don't. I think that those are, can't be the years that you were in the service because I was only in 2, just a little bit less than 2. So I don't know.